Yo, hello, fellow guildie or random YouTube watcher. I want to quickly make a video about Mythic Princess Nexus or Nexus-Princess. Mostly on how to use personals, when to use them, and how to assign them. At the end of the video, I'll also go over a quick kill video, just mentioning what I think is important to know. Although I highly advise you to watch another guide for that. I can recommend Dreadnoughts and Tactics for this boss. Alright, let's keep it short because it's almost raid time actually. So personals, we want to use them in P1, 2, and 3 for Assassination and for Twilight Massacre. Assassination is the first mechanic that drops the images or drops the portals. We can see that we have 8 seconds time to get to our spots. It deals 4.6 million damage and leaves a dot on us. So we want to use a personal for the initial hit as late as possible so we can make use of the personal for the duration of the dot as well. And the second one is called Twilight Massacre. This is just the charges from the images. It does almost the same amount of damage. We only have 5 seconds instead of 8 seconds to get to our location. And it leaves the same dot for 9 seconds. You will only get hit by one of these mechanics in each phase. So you can't get Assassination and Twilight Massacre. You only get one of these. So you want to have a personal for this. Second spot for personals is Intermission. We will have constant ticking damage. Some players will get a line throughout the intermission, which deals 4 million damage as well. Almost the same as the charges. And at the very end of the intermission, all the players in the raid will get a line. So it gets messy on where to stand, and we take a lot of damage. Ideally, you will have a personal DR for the very last hit of the intermission. And you time it so that you make use of the DR for the ticking damage. And then 1 second before the DR ends is when the actual hit from the line at the very end happens as well. So, how do you time this and when do you use what? We'll make use of external sites for that. To give you an example of what to use, I would advise to use lorgs.io. Here you will see the top logs in terms of damage for every spec, so it's not ideal for personals, but it gives you a general idea. We'll use Elemental Shaman as an example. We change to the correct boss in the top right, Nexus-Princess. We can uncheck everything over here and just make visible what we want to know. So these are the top logs in terms of damage. We want to see certain mechanics, which is Starless Night is the intermission, Assassination are the first portals in each phase. Nether Rifts is the pull-in, we don't need to see that, we just heal through this. Twilight Massacres are the 2 charges in each phase from the actual images. Void Shredders is a tank mechanic, we don't need to see that. So we have timers here, the fight is scripted, they are always the exactly same. And we want to see when do these people use personals. Stone Bulwark Totem is a shield. Astral Shift is our big personals, 40% DR. And then we have Earth Alley, which gives us 15% max HP. So we see when these people used it, and we can generally see that almost all of them used Astral Shift for intermission. More so, they use it midway through in order for Astral Shift to still be in effect on the very last second of intermission. This is where the lines explode. We can also see that the majority, or over half of them, use Stone Bulwark Totem for intermission as well. So they use it at the beginning, Astral Shift at the end, and then depending on where you get these mechanics, you will have a personal as well. And this is where you need to figure out, am I able to use Astral Shift for the first charge, for example, and have it back in time for the intermission. Here you will have to do some math calculations, and I would advise you to use Viserio cooldown for this. So Viserio cooldown this is how we assign heal CDs in ERT nodes, but you can use them for personals as well. You go to this website, I will post them in the description. You need to connect your BattleNet to this. You can read Getting Started if you want some guide on how to use this, but we'll essentially go to cooldown, go to Nexus-Princess. Excuse me. Then here we add our own character, which we want to make the node for. Add in the correct name. The name needs to be correct in order for the Casa Vicara to actually pop up. And on visibility, we could check, uncheck what we want to add to the node. So we want to see defensives. Here we have the abilities. It's also a small description when you don't know what is, but we're gonna have a look at intermission first. We remember a good use looks like Stone Bulwark Totem at the beginning into Astral Shift for the last hit. So we see Astral Shift here. We're gonna left click once to paste it in, and then we can drag it around. And we want the duration, which is the line field here, I don't know how to call it, to be longer than the last hit. And then the blue bar here shows us the cooldown on it. So we time it that the duration is slightly over the last hit. And then based on the visual, we can afterwards calculate when can we use Astral Shift before that and still have it back in time, or when can we use it after that, and so on. So we do this for Astral Shift. We know that we're gonna use it for the second one as well. So we're gonna add it here, make so the duration is slightly over the last hit. And we're gonna use Stone Bulwark Totem at a certain point. We can see when we drag it around, perfect timing. This just means that it's at the same time as it starts. And we can see it lasts for the full duration as well. So we're gonna add this. We can see that the cooldown from Viserio says we don't have it back for the second one, although most people use it here and here again. So somehow you can get it back. And this is just where class knowledge comes into play. For shamans, we can reduce the totem cooldown with a certain ability. So I know even though the visual shows me I don't have it back, I actually know if I plan it right, I do have it back. I'm just gonna assign it here as well, which we eventually use as a reminder for our ERT node to actually use them. And then for the last one is basically just the enrage. I don't assign it myself just because I know I'm gonna use everything I have for the last one. So now that we have intermission covered, we know that it is possible to get these mechanics where we need to DR as well. And here comes the prep you need to do as well. You need to figure out, if I get the first mechanic, the assassination, am I able to use Astral Shift and have it back in time for the intermission? Unfortunately, Viserio here takes into account that Astral Shift is 2 minutes, has a 2-minute CD. Although we can talent it, so it's only 1:30 instead of 2 minutes. But I don't know how to adjust that in Viserio. So we need to do some math on our own. Also, we need to keep in account that at 1:30 we have a symbol of hope, and at 4:40 as well. So for first and third intermission, we get reduced CD. You can use Wowhead, symbol of hope here, in order to see what gets reduced. Keep in mind it's only 30 seconds, not 60, so this is outdated. It only reduces it by 30 seconds now. For Shaman, it's Astral Shift. That means if it's 1 minute 30 cooldown, generally, if we use it at 10 seconds, we have it back at 1:40, which is fine for intermission. So if we get the first assassination, we know that we want to use Astral Shift right before the initial hit, and then have the hit reduced as well as the dot itself still active on the DR. What if we get it for the second mechanic, which is the first charge, Twilight Massacre? If we right click this, by the way, it goes away. If we use Astral Shift at 40 seconds, with a 1.5 minute cooldown, we would have it back at 2 minutes 11 seconds, which would be too late for intermission. But because we have a symbol of hope before that, it gets reduced by 30 seconds. So instead of 2 minutes 11 seconds minus 30 would be 1 minute 40 seconds. So with a symbol of hope, by doing math, we know we can use Astral Shift on the first Twilight Massacre and still have it back for the intermission. So we're good here as well with Astral Shift. I have two options. I can assign Astral Shift for every single one. I can use them, and then just remember, if I don't get the mechanic, I don't need to use it. This comes to personal preference, right? I can also add a note. If I go to visibility notes, since I will put this into a personal note and not for everybody, I can just use note for everyone and then make a note, use Astral Shift if I get the mechanic, or it's probably too long, but you get the point. You can make notes for yourself that pop up on your screen. So you know, can I use it, can I not use it? So use notes if you want. And then special case here, if we get it on the second massacre at 112, even with Symbol of Hope, would make it to 1 minute cooldown. We don't get it back in time for intermission. That means if we get this mechanic right here, we can't use Astral Shift, we can't use Stone Bulwark Totem. Leaves us with the last personal we have, which is Earth Alley. Earth Alley is pretty bad personal, but still is enough to survive this mechanic. So this increases our max HP by 15%. That means we can live the initial hit, but we drop very low, and then the ticking damage might kill us. But since it's livable, I can either assign it or keep it in mind, or make a note that if I get the third one, I use Earth Alley, paired with a throughput, mostly through a health stone, health pot, in order to not die to the ticking damage. So again, either I know this by myself, or I assign them here to know what to use when. There are spots, let's say we use Earth Alley here, where we don't have any personals left. If we get the first mechanic in P2, assassination right here, everything is on cooldown. We don't have anything. This is where you ask for a personal. Or, sorry, not for a personal, for an external. The way you ask this is not by saying, help me, I need something, whatever. We are being smart about this. We're gonna ask for something specific from a specific player to you. So we open Method Raid Tools, ERT. We go to Raid Cooldowns, go to Spells, check single target, and here are some or all of the externals, plus a bunch of other stuff. You want to track them by check marking what you want to see and add it to a column. So we want to check Blessing of Sacrifice, add it to column 7, for example. Blessing of Sacrifice, 30% DR. We want to see Guardian Spirit, which just heals us instead of kills us through a hit. Add Pain Suppression, which is a DR. Add Life Cocoon, is a shield. Iron Bark is a DR. Time Dilation, you can add. It's a external as well, but not a good one. It says instead of taking all the damage, you take the damage over 8 seconds. So the damage actually doesn't get reduced, it just gets spread out. So you still need to be healed a lot, but you can survive better with this. You add all this to a column, you enable the column and then customize it yourself. At the end, you will see cooldowns on your screen, and you need to pre-plan. You need to know, oh, if this mechanic comes out, if the charges comes out, I know I have no personal at all. I won't survive it, so I have a look at the externals, and then if I get the mechanic, I'll ask for an exact external. For example, Eli, sacrifice me. That's how you ask for external. So you go through the fight, you add personals to the intermission, you figure out if you can use personals before that or after that. If you don't have anything, you ask for an external. There is a special case to min-max it a little bit better. For Astral Shift, for example, since I use it in the intermission, I know the very last use I can make is for the second Massacre, because the third one is too late. So I can add this here as well. I know I get it back with Symbol of Hope. Even if I do not get the mechanic, I should still use it, just for reduction on the ticking damage on the raid. That's a small thing to min-max. So use it just for ticking damage in order to get it back for when you actually need it, even if you don't get the mechanic. A special external is Blessing of Protection. This is more than external. This is an immunity. So the hit itself, as well as the dot, can fully be immuned by a Blessing of Protection. So we will use Blessing of Protections on players that have bad DRs in general. And we can see timing-wise, if we use it in P1 on even the very last mechanic in P1, we will get it back for P3 as well. So we will have immunities on certain people so that they can save their personal. So for example, on Shamans, if we get this, we ask for a Bob, and we can save the Earth Ally for in case we get something on the second in P2. So that's how you do it. You go through the cooldowns. At the end, you copy MRT node, whatever you want to save, and you add it to your personal node over here. You copy paste it in. And then the Kase Recurrer will pop up in the middle for a screen. Whatever timings you have here, it will pop up as a reminder to use those mechanics. That's how we figure out the personals. Everything was mentioned here, calculated with Symbol of Hope. And that's pretty much it. Have something for every charge. Have intermission set with your personals. Have something for every charge. If you don't, you ask for an external that you track with MRT nodes. Alright, that was the main part of the video. How to use personals, how to set it up. Now to end it, we can go over a kill video from Benches here, because he has a good UI. We see a lot, and I'll just mention things that are important, although most, if not all of them, you should already know by watching other guides. So if you are fully set for the fight, thanks for watching here, and otherwise listen along to what I think is important to know. Cheers! Alright, for the fight, we are pre-spread in certain locations. This can be intermission spread as well. It's just so that when the portals come out, they're not stacked all in one spot. They're already somewhat pre-spread, so we can drop them in the correct spots. Ideally for the tanks, we have one spot set up for them to drop the portal. So if avoidable, we won't drop it there. And where do we drop it? We drop it on the edge of this inner ring. We don't drop it over here, which we did on Heroic. We drop it on the inner one. And we can see this guy, instead of going to the tank location, he goes to the other spot. So those images are dropped. 3 of those are empowered, outlined by a red line. This is important for tanks to know which lines or where they need to move the boss in order to get hit by, I believe in P1 it's exactly 1. At least 1 guy in P1. In P2 it needs to be exactly 2 of them. And P3 exactly 2 again. Anyways. We see this guy drop the image. That means he will shoot out orbs 8 seconds later. Tanks, meanwhile, go to the last spot to drop the portal. So how do you do the orbs? You do take ticking damage. First of all, right before the hit, this guy used a personal, by the way, which we looked at before. He gets a dot for 9 seconds. You want to stay somewhat in heal range. Don't go very far yet. Stay in heal range, go out as late as possible. And the very first orbs in each phase are a bit special. Normally, he would stand about in the location he is right now. We check the exact location later on in phase 2. But because it's the very first orbs, he will need to go further out to the wall. The reason for that is he will get pulled in by the portals before shooting out the orbs. So he needs to be further away in order for the middle to be safe. So we can see he stays in heal range for as long as possible. Towards the end, he's going to move out further than usually. He gets pulled in, and while being pulled in, he will shoot out the orbs and get safely into the middle. And also, he will go right side, looking to the middle of the room with his orbs. If there is confusion and there is ever 2 people shooting out orbs in the same field, it's doable if one of them goes further back than the other. But ideally, everybody goes right, and we avoid confusion like that. All right. Then after that, we get charges. You can see they have a ERT node. You can do this with a personal node as well if you want, 2 clockwise. You've probably seen this in other guides. It means that this guy who is charged, player who's charged by this guy goes 1, 2 over, and then exactly on the world mark that is being placed down, goes over here. The image charges through him. It's gonna end up in the exact same location that this guy was in. And you can also see the tanks move the boss so that 2 lines with exactly at least one empowered ad dashes through the boss. All of the images are in one spot. Also, the tanks should know that there's no image down here, so that this spot over here is open with no image. This is where the tanks will need to drop theirs. So the tank moves over there, we dodge lines, they one-shot. And meanwhile, players who got hit by the charge, which they also used the personal right before the hit, will get the Queensbane dot. These players stay in heal range for as long as possible. After that, they move out to their spot where they got hit in. So the blue guy will move over here into a specific spot, which we have a look at in P2 on where that is, and the middle will be safe from orbs. Get pulled in. Also, when getting pulled in, remember that the portal that the tank plays usually will pull us in just slightly before we are, safe. So do not be at the very edge of the portal as a melee. Just keep in mind that most likely this will suck us in just a little bit. So have some distance to it. You can see that the whole raid is getting shifted just slightly to this portal. Right. Moving on, we get the second set of dashes in this phase. You can see a reminder through middle. This means that all the dashes hit the boss through the middle. If you are the guy that is targeted by this image, you move all the way behind this image because you don't want to get hit by 2 charges. You can see he moves behind. They have the Queensbane dot on them. As a melee, you keep uptime, you hit the boss, you are in heal range, and then you move out for shooting out the orbs. You need to remember where to move out, which is the right side of the image that you had. So we know, not the one you had actually, the one you were placed. So this mage right here, targeted by this ad, he moves out, has a personal for the hit, stays in heal range, ideally a bit closer, and then moves to the location to shoot the orbs. dodging lines, then go middle to dodge the orbs. And the tank is placing their portal not in a weird spot. That's actually what we do. So for tanks, they should be aware here that there is no add on this spot that shoots in this direction. That means there is no portal on this side over here. And this is where they drop their portal. They don't drop it all the way at the edge, just in a general direction over here. Outside of the middle. That means the middle is safe. Melees, we keep in mind that this portal will suck us in just a little bit, so keep a bit of a distance. And middle is safe. Then we hop into intermission. We have pre-assigned spots for that. We see a symbol of hope reminder for them. We have them at the same time. And we go to our locations. Now, you should know the pizza slices rotate clockwise in P1, counterclock in P2, and P3, I don't know actually. P3 is different patterns. But you should pre-move in the correct spots. And the common mistake in intermission here is that sometimes both of these players get weird lines, or even if one guy gets a weird line that would hit the other player, you need to have communication on who moves further out than the other. And as a general rule, what we will do is the guy further back outside will move farther left or right if you would hit each other. We're gonna see one of the examples in a second here. Right here, if both of the players just dodge the pizza slice and stay close to it, this line would hit the other player. So we will have the rule that the guy further back out will move farther out. So here benches would move further right. This guy should know I can stay close. Otherwise you get this miscommunication where both players try to dodge each other and then the line hits both players. We try to avoid that. Anyways, here we have the DRs timed as well. You can see the cast time. If your DR lasts 8 seconds, you want to use it at 7 seconds left of the cast, so that you get the DR for the last hit at 0 seconds, which we can see every player has a line, and they explode at 0. Also here we see a good example of him using Turtle. You can see he has a bad line, which he would hit other players, and there's already a mess with a ton of lines. So instead, he's gonna use his Turtle immunity and stay in the pizza slice to avoid hitting other players. All right, that's the phase. That's the intermission. From here on, it's copy and paste with one more empowered image, which is just necessary for the tanks to know where they put the boss. So again, just as a reminder, first set of portals, which is followed by first set of orbs. These orbs will need to go further out the edge of the room because they get sucked in earlier. But we're gonna move forward here to the dash that the benches will get. He goes 2 over with this on the mark. Personal. Gets hit, stays in heal range, then moves out. And where does he move out to? Moves out to right here. And if we stop, we have a good visual on where that actually is. It's you can see this diamond shape here. I think Dreadnought calls it a rhombus. And you're gonna stand directly on the tip of the lines that overlap over here. This is how you're gonna shoot out the orbs. You stay in the rhombus, you go on the lines. Shoot out the orbs, you move back in. Again, one more time in full speed. 2 over, personal, stay in heal range if possible. Then move out, right side of where you got hit. Get to the rhombus for the orbs. Put them out, move back in for healing. And then second dashes in the face, we'll go through the boss again. Then intermission, same thing over and over again. Yeah, that is the fight. Will not watch the end of the video. You know everything. You know how to plan DRs, when to use them. You need to know you want to call out the externals if needed, if you don't have one. So, looks like a fun fight. Thanks for listening. I hope it was short enough. I don't know how long it got, But yep, looking forward to progress. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.